back to Wonky. Whoa!
I mean alien.
Today we have a radical video by Goji Center. It's with
Toothless, aka Night Fury, with Godzilla, aka Legendary Godzilla.
Perfect. We can't wait to get into this one. Comment below who you think's gonna win before we even start. Who do you think?
Oh, I don't know, man.
You going for Toothless or Godzilla?
Toothless, because you know in the Bewilderbeast versus Red Blister, Toothless was acting crazy.
Dude, he really
so I'm
was.
going for Toothless.
All right, man, let's go for Toothless. That's crazy. We normally go for Big G. Let's see what happens. Action. Away. We got the Toothless screen. Oh!
Today, legendary Godzilla has set its sights on Toothless and has determined that today is this Night Fury's last day on Earth. But how will Toothless deal with this threat? Today on Goji Center, we will review all the abilities and strategies that this Night Fury will have to rely on if he is to survive an encounter with legendary Godzilla. This won't be easy. As we review all the abilities Godzilla brings to this pursuit, we will quickly find out that
so
this
it's gonna
encounter
stack
will
up
be
all the
nothing
abilities.
short of devastating. So sit back, hit that subscribe button, and hold on tight as we travel with both Godzilla and Toothless around the world to see if this Night Fury can survive an encounter with the G-Man. As mentioned already, Godzilla is already determined to kill this fella. But
look at how
why?
good that is.
Let's go back in time to see why this encounter is happening in the
look at
first
that
place.
detail
In this
on
scenario, we are
Toothless.
putting these
Yeah, I
animals
love
in
the
an
detail
alternate
on
universe
Toothless.
where both of these creatures reside on the same planet.
It's called
And all of their abilities and
Godzilla.
weapons
Yeah,
are
Titanus,
just as
Gojira.
powerful as they are
Gojira
in
was
their
kinda
respective
like the
cinematic
original.
universes.
Versus
This also
Night
includes their
Fury.
philosophies. Knowing this, we now need to turn over to Godzilla, who will most likely be the one instigating this fight. Why? Let us explain. In the Monsterverse, the hierarchy of Titans is topped by a single specimen who holds the title of Alpha
Oh, look
Titan.
at that.
This individual up here can basically
Yeah.
call
Did I
all the
say
Titans
right?
to do its bidding and
Think so.
demand submission and
Yeah,
obedience.
it's-
This
this
doesn't
time
stop
it's not
here.
Titan, it's
Godzilla
Titan.
himself can at times show signs
Dude,
of
look
being a
I
little
only saw
arrogant
the
and
regular
proud. He
Wuhuka.
knows he's
Not
a
the
badass
Titanus,
and now
wasn't
expects
only
everyone
the
else to be his
regular
subordinate.
Wuhuka.
Now, enter this
Wuhuka.
Night Fury, who is currently an alpha in his current universe.
Yeah,
But in
so you got
Godzilla's
two
mind, there can
alphas.
only be
Be
one.
one.
This is where we have our conflict. We also have to mention the matter of this Night Fury's size. While not as large as a titan such as Behemoth, Kong, or Scylla, this dragon does have the weapons necessary to fend off some titan-sized creatures,
Yeah, it
placing
does.
him a little higher in the hierarchy of powerful creatures on the planet. Enough to gain Godzilla's attention. So in this hypothetical story, Godzilla looks out for this said alpha to
Godzilla's
once again
not
make it
into
clear
it.
that he's the alpha. Upon meeting Toothless, Godzilla will expect him to bow. But will he? Maybe, but this is a what-if scenario, so anything goes. Here, the G-Man will appear intimidating with his blue hue and communicate to the Night Fury that he now needs to submit or face consequences. Upon facing such odds, the Night Fury can do two things: bow or challenge. If he bows, then all is solved. He can continue on living his life. But for the purposes of this video, we'll cover a scenario where this Night Fury will take its chances and bet on his abilities to try to defeat Godzilla, since this isn't the first time he's faced larger monsters. And now, Toothless's biology allows him to initiate something known as Alpha Mode, a phenomenon in which parts of his upper body glow blue as a challenging
dude, it's
display
just
to
like
another
Godzilla.
alpha. This in turn infuriates Godzilla, and now he decides that this dragon must die. Godzilla quickly charges up his atomic breath. The Night Fury knows what's coming and now leverages all of his abilities to evade any atomic blast Godzilla shoots at him. This fight has now begun. To try to survive this encounter, this Night Fury will have to rely on flying speeds that can surpass the sound barrier, well-placed plasma blasts in critical areas,
So it's like
cloaking
over 1,000
abilities,
miles an
and
hour.
most importantly, his common sense. Godzilla, on the other hand, doesn't have much to worry about in terms of corporal safety. Having tanked nukes to the face, drops from high altitudes, and serious beatings, there's not much this Night Fury could do to inflict one critical hit with a plasma blast. So right away, this isn't a question of can the Night Fury survive this, but rather, how long can he survive for? Let's find out.
How long do you think?
Part 1, the first skirmish.
How long do you
Because
think
this
he's gonna survive?
dragon will most definitely
I
be
don't
airborne
know.
during a confrontation against the G-Man, this means
Or
that the
nobody's
use of
gonna
melee
win.
weapons will now be
'Cause you
obsolete.
picked Night
This
Fury.
fight will most likely only witness pure firepower. But this poses a problem for Godzilla. How on earth do you accurately hit a tiny menace with a narrow atomic stream of fire? Once witnessing the first blast of atomic breath, a smart creature like Toothless would quickly realize that a single whiff of this
You think he
blast is
built this
enough to
animation
turn
as
it to ashes. And the further
We'll
away he
find
is
out.
from Godzilla, the better. Being closer to the G-Man allows him to have higher chances of hitting it, whereas being at a longer distance, Godzilla will have a lot less chances of landing a hit. This in turn only means that in a land confrontation, Toothless would most likely resort to something called dive bombing, which is the act of flying vertically down from high altitudes, at times breaching the sound barrier, and culminate this attack with a supercharged plasma blast.
Dang.
This, if aimed at the right spots, could turn into a serious nuisance. A shot to the gills, for instance, will most likely make Godzilla start to think now, since there's nothing much he can do other than waste his atomic breath trying to hit an extremely small moving target, similar to you trying to
dude,
shoot
as
a
long as
very
he was
fast
moving
fly
around
with a
much,
super soaker
I
from a
feel like
distance. In this
he could
scenario,
survive
Toothless has
pretty
developed
well.
a strategy to continue bombarding Godzilla at range, leveraging his speeds to
talent
avoid a
he took
direct
out
hit
the
by the
wildebeest.
atomic breath. Is his cloaking ability needed? Not really, especially since his fast
God,
speeds
dang,
already
he
make
can
him
float.
almost untouchable. Not to mention the fact that the use of this consumes a lot of energy. So, as
yeah,
you
so
can
you won't
imagine,
use that.
Godzilla is now pissed. But something is different now. After a good number of consecutive dive bombs, the G-Man noticed that the Night Fury has now retreated, but not for long. Part 2, the pursuit.
Ooh, the
So why
pursuit.
did the Night Fury retreat for now? Well, it is because of something known as his shot limit. Night Furies don't have an infinite amount of blasts that they can fire. This is said to be 6 shots, but this Night Fury in particular can hit higher numbers, somewhere in the range of 14 to 15 consecutive shots, especially during alpha mode. Perhaps more,
Dang.
but definitely enough to piss Godzilla off. After several shots, this
Right,
Night
like,
Fury
I
will
have
now
it
rest
coming
at a
for you.
nearby location for enough time to cool down and recharge, while knowing of the G-Man's whereabouts. Yes, this guy is now determined to win, but so is Godzilla. But he's not just gonna sit there with his arms crossed waiting for the Night Fury to come back. He's going after it, turning this battle into a pursuit. Now, it is important to note that Godzilla has the ability to detect other nearby titans and other active alphas. Using this ability, Godzilla will now follow this Night Fury relentlessly. And the Night Fury, on the other hand, would constantly keep his distance as soon as he hears Godzilla approaching, since this guy has excellent senses. But after some
Night
time, the
Fury's,
Night
like,
Fury will have
crushing, man.
recharged his plasma blasts and repeat this process again. Dive bombing, hitting Godzilla from all directions. Except that by this point, it's likely that the Night Fury might have picked up at Godzilla's most vulnerable parts, his gills. It would only take 2 to 3 shots in this area for Toothless to pick up on Godzilla's painful groan after these impacts, meaning that the third time that he attacks Godzilla, all shots will be aimed here. Remember, this guy is smart, so
Yeah, he
literally
is.
any advantage he detects, he will exploit. But he isn't the only one figuring something out. Godzilla now realizes that these shots are hitting his gills a little more frequently.
Yeah,
So
he's
apart
like,
from this pursuit being
"Forget
arduous
this,
and
man,
annoying,
I'm
it's
mad."
now becoming painful. So his next move is to shift the battlefield to a place where the Night Fury's abilities will become obsolete. Water. At this point, Godzilla stops following the Night Fury and now lets this dragon come to him. Part 3, the final encounter. In the past, Godzilla
I
has
thought
resorted to
probably
fighting in the
fight him
ocean
in the
when
water,
facing
you know?
flying
Like,
titans.
dude,
Fighting on the ground only
go back
limits
to
him to
land.
one axis, while allowing the flying creature to basically have infinite maneuverability above him, putting him at a disadvantage. Fighting in the ocean is different.
Yeah,
While it
I
is
remember
true
that,
that the
man.
flying opponent
Almost
still
having
has
trouble.
infinite maneuverability on the surface, one mistake such as flying too close to the water surface can spell doom for this creature. Down here, both Godzilla and his opponent have said infinite maneuverability, but Godzilla now would have the edge. In Ghidorah's case, Godzilla was able to bring him down because he was flying too low. But what about the Night Fury? It's not like it's going to fly low the whole time. In this fight, it would only do this at each culmination of a dive bomb. So what's his plan? Let's find out. Godzilla allows himself to be found by the challenging Night Fury, who, by the way, has its sights set on Godzilla's gills.
Yeah, he
but
does.
this time, Godzilla has a little surprise
Still going
waiting.
for Night
As he
Fury?
detects the Night Fury approaching, the
going for Night
G-Man
Fury?
will now position himself with part of his body on the surface to give the Night Fury a reason to fly low enough to shoot at his gills. As the
almost like
Night
what
Fury
Thanos
dive
does.
bombs,
It's
the
kinda like
G-Man now
he's
swims
teasing
up,
him in. He's like,
activates his
"Come on
atomic
down,
breath,
boy."
and with its colossal body creates a water splash so powerful that the Night Fury finds himself in the middle of a giant watery splash intended to bring him underwater. A smart animal like this Night Fury would quickly figure out what Godzilla's trying to do, so now he'll be more careful. After this failed attempt, Godzilla now swims close to the surface, receiving shots on his dorsals close
Godzilla's
to
just a
his
little
gills.
too big
It
to
is
deal
now
with
when
Night
Godzilla
Fury.
lifts his massive tail, carrying so much water with it that it manages to disorient this Night Fury, slowing him down just enough for Godzilla to almost hit it with his atomic
Yeah, so if
blast.
he gets hit by
He
that,
missed, but now the Night Fury is heading straight into Godzilla territory. Now, the next obvious question, can this guy even swim? Yes, he can actually, and he's good at it. But one thing to consider here is that this guy's speed underwater will decrease exponentially, putting him at the same level as Godzilla or below, meaning that it will be many times more difficult to dodge an atomic attack, and Godzilla knows this. Godzilla
just
turns
gotta get out
around
of
and
the water,
begins to
man.
charge his atomic breath again, but Toothless quickly fires his plasma blast underwater. Yes, they can do this, and distracts Godzilla for enough time for him to reach the surface and begin to fly away. There is not much time left for this Night Fury. It's imperative for this guy to once again fly fast so that he may avoid the atomic blast. But it's too late. Unfortunately for this Night Fury, its flying speed coming out of the water was not fast enough to evade a robust atomic beam from Godzilla at a
way.
short
I
distance.
should've known it,
To
dude.
be
That's why
more
we go for
realistic here,
Godzilla
this
so
was
much.
just a matter of time. Admittedly, this could have
hard
also
to beat
eventually happened
Godzilla,
on
bro.
land with
He's
one
being
lucky
monster,
shot from
man.
Godzilla. Except in this
Mad
scenario, the
respect,
G-Man
bruh.
chose the playing ground where this would have had more likelihood of happening. But realistically, would this fight even happen? Probably not. Upon witnessing that not a single one of these plasma blasts can critically injure Godzilla, Toothless would have realized that this is a lost cause and submit. As much as we hate seeing our favorite Night Fury be a subordinate, there just wouldn't be any other way
everybody's
against the king of
subordinate to
monsters.
Godzilla, man.
Today, the Night Fury deserves nothing less than a standing ovation for its bravery, courage, and audacity for standing up to the most powerful Alpha Titan of all time. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more Monsterverse, How to Train Your Dragon, and more,
epic.
subscribe, hit that like button, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Oh my gosh, that was the best.
The best. All right, make sure you go check out Goji Center and like and subscribe,
And by
man.
the way,
Stop being wonky.